Hi guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video. Today you join me in the 2023 Nissan X-Trail. Specifically, this is the e-Power version, which is an interesting technology that basically is a hybrid system that only drives the wheels via electric motors. The petrol engine is effectively there as a generator and a booster for those motors. So it's not quite the same as a traditional hybrid where the engine kicks in and drives the wheels. So, does that make for a better experience, and does that make this car any better than my favourites in this class, the Hyundai Santa Fe and the Kia Sorento? That's what I'm here to find out today. I think this is actually a close competitor that you might want to keep your eye on. So as usual, before we get into the review, let's talk a little bit about trim levels, pricing and engine choices. In terms of your engine, you've got three options. The entry level one is an 163 horsepower mild hybrid, which is front wheel drive only and a CVT transmission. You then have the one that I have here today, which is the first e-Power model. Again, front wheel drive only, 204 brake horsepower and a single speed electric motor. The top of the range model is the e-Power four wheel drive, which has a little bit more power, 213 brake horsepower, and gets you a little bit quicker to 60 mile an hour as a result of that drivetrain. Trim levels, you've got quite a few options, to be honest. The entry-level Vizier car starts at £33,000, and to be honest, that one I would avoid completely. It comes with a 7-inch non-touchscreen, really basic infotainment system without Apple CarPlay or anything like that. I think at this price point is actually quite insulting. It also doesn't have a reversing camera, just basic parking sensors. Next in line is the Ascenta trim, about £1,500 more, and that gets you a reversing camera, Apple CarPlay on an 8-inch display, and dual zone climate control. The next model up is probably my recommendation of the bunch, the ENQUIRIES. That's probably the best value, I would say. At £37,000, you get the dual 12.3-inch displays, which I have on this car here, a surround camera, which shows you 360 views, and also a parking camera on the left-hand side, and also ambient lighting package on the interior, which is really nice. So I think that's probably a really good place in the range to be. Step it up again, you come to this one that I've got here, which is a Tecna, about 40 grand, comes with a glass roof, but you do still have to opt for the sun pack, which gets you the electric sliding roof. So that is an optional extra, which is a bit of a shame. A lot of other manufacturers now are starting to include that in their pricing. But it also has power tailgate, head-up display, and nice and 19-inch wheels on the outside. The Tecna Plus is the top of the range model, about £43,000 starting price. Comes with a Bose surround system inside for the audio, some really nice diamond quilted premium leather seats, and also 20-inch alloy wheels. But as I say, anything N-Connector Plus is probably my recommendation. I think that's probably the best value of the range. So let us talk then a little bit about the Nissan X-Trail. In terms of styling, I quite like it. I don't think it's quite as bold as, say, a Hyundai Santa Fe or a Kia Sorento, but it's definitely not bad at all. It's still quite a nice design, and it has been updated, although those other two cars are due for very, very nice updates very soon, so they're definitely ones to keep an eye on. Overall though, I think it's quite handsome, and I particularly like the design of this interior. In this particular one, I've got brown over black leather, which is really nice actually. You've got some contrast stitching everywhere. All the materials are pretty plush. This pearlescent white paint is nice as well. But yeah, overall, I think it looks okay. I don't think it looks particularly premium from the outside, but it's a nice size. And in terms of actually placing it on the road, it's really good. It's quite a narrow car, realistically, for its size. So it feels quite easy to drive around and also to park, especially with that 360 camera. Although not the best quality, it still does the trick, and I'm pretty happy with it. And yeah, visibility is good. You've got nice large door mirrors, which really helps. And then if you look out of the rear, you do have a big, thick, chunky C-pillar, but it's still pretty visible at the back there. And with the cameras, you're not really going to have too much issue. The driving position is also absolutely fantastic. There's lots of adjustment in terms of where you can get the seat. And overall, I'm really impressed with sort of where I'm sitting. Like, I can rest my elbows either side perfectly comfortably. The ergonomics of the car are really good. The visibility of the front is great. It really slopes down. I can really sort of see where the back corners of the car are as well, and loads of adjustment in the steering wheel. Although it's not electric, it's still adjustable, tilt and telescope, so I can see exactly what's going on there. The actual interior design is absolutely lovely, to be honest. I've got this brown over black leather, which looks really nice. You've got contrast stitching as well, and the seats are much more comfortable than I anticipated. The level of support is just right for me. The headrest is in a really nice position for my back, and there's loads and loads of adjustment. You can also raise the thigh support, and the seats in the back you can slide and recline as well. Only thing is, in terms of space, I would say you could possibly do with a little bit more knee room in the front here, but it's not too bad at all. And the actual build quality of everything, the center console is absolutely solid. Everything I touch feels like a premium material. Up here is all squishy, even down kind of where the handle of the door is all squishy leather materials. It's only really down the bottom where you get the cheap plastics, but even down there, it's not bad at all in this price range. I've seen far worse. The actual layout is really ergonomic as well. As I say, the driving position is great, but the actual layout of where the buttons and things are, the screen is ever so slightly angled towards me, and the clarity of these displays is brilliant as well. It looks fantastic. I really like the design of this digital display in front of me, even though it's not up to scratch with the likes of, say, the Volkswagen Audi group cars like Skodas, VWs, Audis. It doesn't have like the virtual cockpit sort of appeal to it, but you've still got lots of information on there. I really love the font that Nissan use as well. It's really modern and clear, and it gives you enough information on the screen. It tells you about what's going on with your power and your regen braking. It also tells you sort of what mode you're in and some basic trip computer information and traffic sign recognition and all that kind of thing as well. It's comprehensive enough, and it looks really nice and modern. This one in the middle is actually really good as well. The actual interface itself, I think, is a cut above stuff like the Kias, Hyundais. It just looks more modern, more crisp, and I think the clarity of the display is a bit nicer as well. It sort of reminds me of the one in the Genesis cars, but the only downside is it is a little bit laggy in comparison to its rivals. It's not something that you'd really notice too much or care about, especially if you're using Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, but it's just something to bear in mind. It just isn't quite as good in terms of the responsiveness as some of those other Korean rivals. Let's face it, a lot of the time you're not really going to be prodding through the menus, you're just going to be using your mobile phone plugged in anyway. The other place it falls a little bit short is in terms of the kind of the tech, the safety tech. So on something like a Kia or a Hyundai, you would get the blind spot monitoring cameras in the dash, which are really nice and useful. On this, you just have them on the mirrors, and it does still kind of warn you with haptic feedback through the steering wheel if you stray over lines with the lane keep assist. But I do miss from some of the rivals the one button driving assist and lane keep on the motorway, like the sort of the autonomous driving modes. That's something you don't get on this, but you know, it's a bit of a gimmick to some people. Not everyone uses it. The only time I've really found it really useful is in a really long journey, and that's where I'd miss it on this. Below the infotainment screen, you've got some basic controls for it, which you can find on the steering wheel as well. The only thing I don't like about it is it's got this gloss black plastic, which is sort of raised upwards, and you get loads of reflections off it. So it's constantly, you can see trees and stuff flashing around in it all the time, which is a bit weird. But apart from that, the actual material qualities are nice. There's a camera button there as well, which gives you instant access to all of your parking cameras, which is really good. And below that, some physical climate controls. So, hey, I love physical climate controls, and these ones are no exception. They are really good, really easy to use. They don't feel as nice as something, as say in like a Volkswagen Audi group car. They're not like nice and clicky and stuff. They do feel a little bit mushy, the buttons. But it's really not a problem. Like, it does everything I want it to. You've got dual zone climate control. In this one, in fact, you've got another zone in the rear as well. And yeah, it's pretty good. Like, the only thing that I would change is the heated steering wheel control is down there on the climate controls rather than on the steering wheel, which I find a little bit jarring. But really, that's not a problem. At least it's got a heated steering wheel. And it also has a heated windscreen, which is lovely here in the UK in the winter. Further down still, you've got a nice center console. You've got kind of one of those grabby gear selectors, which you kind of press the side of it and then move it up or down. I quite like it. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you're used to it, it's absolutely fine and quite a good design. And it's also illuminated with the ambient light package, which is really cool. And you've got some basic selection modes down there, like your e-pedal driving mode, which is almost like one pedal driving. It uses the regen braking to slow you down, but it's not as good as that because it doesn't bring you to a complete stop, unfortunately, which is a little bit of a shame. But you also have your drive mode select. The only thing I can really tell the difference with is in sport mode, the throttle response is greatly improved. But apart from that, I don't really notice any difference between the drive modes, apart from, you know, eco mode gives you a lot more regen. But again, that's something you control by putting it either in e-pedal mode, or there is a button for EV driving, which basically makes it quiet around town and cuts out the petrol generator, a bit like in the hybrid. Not too bad. There's some kind of weird textured plastic down here rather than the wood, but then again, the wood looks like it's textured, but it's not. It's smooth, which is a bit odd, but it does look nice. Overall, I think it just feels and looks really premium in here. Like, there's nothing I would change about the design realistically, in terms of the way it looks. Like, I really enjoy it, and you can get it in some nice color combinations like this brown, or you can also get in some territories a sort of a tan orangey color as well, which looks really good. But then I would say the Hyundai Santa Fe does a really good job of interior as well. So it's something I'd recommend you go and probably check out in person to see for yourself. But this is definitely one of the better interiors at this price point. In terms of practicality in here then, it's not too bad. The glove box is a little bit small, and I do have a big gripe with these cup holders. There's no grips in them. There's no, like, normally it grabs on to whatever cup size you put in, but there's nothing like that at all. So your cups and your bottles just kind of rattle around in there, which I think is really poor design. But you do have a big storage area in the center console, which is nice. And the door bins do fit a larger bottle, although they could be bigger definitely, which is a bit of a shame. But in terms of the rear space, obviously you've got those sliding seats, so you've got plenty of space there. If you opt for the 7-seat option though, it is a little bit cramped, and you're going to get a lot more space in something like a Skoda Kodiaq. So that's something to bear in mind. The same for the boot. So the boot space is really good. You've got no load lip. It's really nice and easy to get stuff in and out of. But overall, I just think you're going to get more space in something like a Kodiaq. Also, as I say, the car's a little bit narrow. So in terms of your passenger space in the rear, I don't know, you might be a little bit better off with something like a Santa Fe or a Sorento. But again, bear in mind those cars are due to be updated soon as well, so it'll be interesting to see what direction it takes. This one being the 2-wheel drive model, it doesn't have the rear seat option. So that's something that, yeah, it's about £1,000 to add when you go to those models. So I don't know, I just feel like there's kind of better options for if you're looking particularly for a 7-seater. But as a large 5-seater, I think this excels quite well. What I really love as well is that the rear doors open really wide, so it's super easy to get people in and out of the back, or a car seat or whatever you've got going on back there. Just makes it super easy. And also the doors stop in loads of different places, so in tight car parks, even though it's a bigger car, not too bad at all. Very practical from Nissan. This one has power tailgate, which is nice, and the rear cargo space is practical, as I say. You've also got ISOFIX points in the back there and charging points for your phones. We've got USB-C and USB-A, which is a nice touch. Let's talk a little bit about how the thing actually drives then. As I say, it uses just an electric motor and a petrol generator. So it's a bit of a weird combination, really. If I plant it now, you'll hear the petrol motor kick in, and it really does pull quite well. But it's not using a traditional hybrid system. So what you'd normally experience is the gearbox would kick in, the engine would kick in, you get a bit of a jerk when that happens. But this almost feels like an electric car with a CVT gearbox attached. And that's not what it is. It is a single speed, you know, a gearbox on the electric motor. But I'm just trying to sort of get across how it feels sitting here. You know, as you're going along quite steadily, you've got an all EV mode if you want to. And when I press the pedal, you do get that kind of electric torque, but you also hear that petrol generator kick in to provide that boost, which is quite interesting. You might think it might be absolutely exceptional on fuel as well, and you'd kind of be a little bit wrong, unfortunately. It's not the best, but I've been averaging around 40 mpg, so, you know, not bad for a big heavy car. So let's get it round this roundabout then. One thing I've been really impressed with is the suspension. It's very soft and subtle. There is a little bit a body roll, but it does feel really good. So I'm going to start pushing it quite hard around here, and I'm going to go around the roundabout again actually. And you'd expect it to, honestly, I'd be expecting it to wash out of this. Look at how much I'm leaning, and the car is starting to, I've lost my paperwork, but I'm really, really impressed with how much this is holding on for such a big heavy car. I'm going to put my foot down a little bit, and the way the back end's starting to wash out a little bit on me, but honestly, it's not bad. Very, very impressive. And then I'm going to stomp on it on the way out of here. Yeah, it's okay, you know. I'm actually really impressed with how this feels for what it is. Even though there's a bit of body roll, it's exactly where you place it. Steering, even though obviously in this sort of car it's not going to be massively direct, there's not much delay in the chassis, which I really like. And yeah, overall, very impressive how it holds on, especially for something that's front wheel drive. Even when I plant it, it's quite difficult to get it to spin up. So that's testament to how the chassis is designed and sort of the tyres that they fit from factory, I suppose. Let's do a bit of braking here. Heavy on the brakes. Yeah, a little bit spongy under my foot, but definitely not terrible. But yeah, I'm going to flick it into sport mode so that the throttle response is a little bit better. And yeah, it's a bit of a delay when the petrol motor kicks in for that boost. You can tell that the electric motors aren't quite up to scratch with like a proper EV. But what I love about it is that you're getting the EV experience. Like round town, there's no gearbox judder. You don't get, like, you know, say in the Kia and the Hyundai hybrids and things like that, which are very close rivals to this, you get that experience where you kind of put your foot down and all of a sudden you'll feel the da-da-da as the engine kicks in, and you'll feel that, like in the Kia, for example, you've got a 6-speed automatic transmission, like a torque converter. You'll feel that kick in, and then you'll feel that working away and changing gears and things like that. You don't have that in this. Like, it feels like an electric car to drive. It's just that you do occasionally get that drone of that petrol generator. And of course, at this sort of speed, I'm doing 50 now. If I put my foot down, it takes a second for the power to really hit. So that's the only thing. Like, that's the disadvantage. But overall, you're not taking that much of an economy hit for this particular sort of class of car. Like, I have experienced sort of closer to 50 mpg in those normal hybrids. So they are a little bit better on fuel, but what you've got to consider is they're not as smooth as an experience. This is effectively like an EV, but without the hassle of having to charge it all the time. It's not quite as smooth as an EV, no, and it's not quite as instantly responsive as an EV, especially at this sort of speed. Like round town, it's a lot more responsive off the line, but up at speed, it's not as responsive. If I was in like a Kia EV6 or a Hyundai Ioniq 5 or something like that now, if I stomped on it, I'd be pinned. In this, not so much. But as a family car, and especially something you're going to be pottering around town in, this is a really nice setup. And as I say, like averaging about 40 mpg, that's not too bad for a big family car. So if you can stomach that, then it's really quite an intuitive way of doing it. Stamp on it again here. Yeah, see, I couldn't even get it to spin up there. Traction control kicked in. I felt a nice bit of torque, but it's super manageable. It's super easy to drive. I'm so impressed with this car, honestly, and I wouldn't hesitate to recommend it. I think there's just a few shortcomings. The first thing for me that bothers me is that the tech in here isn't as good as some of the rivals, especially the Korean ones. The second thing is the warranty is not going to be as good. You think Kia offer a 7-year, 100,000 mile warranties. This one is only 3 years, 60,000 miles, so not quite as good. Overall as well, if I wanted a 7-seater, I know that there are rivals out there that are just more spacious. Or if I needed every last inch of cargo space, I'd probably be looking at something like a Kodiaq. But overall, I think this is priced really well. If you go for something like an N connector, you can probably get a decent finance deal or buy one pre-owned. There's also some good lease deals going on these as well, so check my link in the description below to find the best lease deals you can through Lease Loco. Or if you're buying a used one, make sure to use my Car Vertical affiliate link for a bit of a discount there as well. Overall, I think this does a bit of a better job at being a day-to-day driver than something like, say, a Peugeot 5008 or those similar rivals. I think this is a really close relative to the Santa Fe and the Sorento. I think those are the two other ones I'd be looking at in this price range. This one does come out a little bit cheaper, but you do have those trade-offs such as slightly less interior practicality, a slightly more cramped rear area, and also just a little bit of tech missing. But in terms of the actual driving experience, I think if you're not quite ready to go EV yet, then Nissan e-Power is really one to watch, because you get a lot of the benefits of EV, but you can still just head down to your local petrol station and fill up like normal. Expect to get about 450 miles of range out of one of these, which is quite impressive on a full tank of fuel for such a big, heavy car that can haul, you know, the dog, the family, and some cargo. If you're in the market for something of this size, if you're looking for a 7-seater, I would say look elsewhere. I think it's a little bit too cramped in comparison to the rivals. And if you want the absolute latest tech-wise, then you're going to be a little bit disappointed. But if you just want a car that's excellent to drive and you can still fill up at the station, then this is a really safe bet. And I'm so impressed with the actual feel of it on the road, especially when you're giving it some beans. It feels a lot more secure and stable than a lot of the other cars in its class. And I'm still lusting after this interior as well because of this wood trim and this brown leather. Maybe I'm getting a bit old. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.